Growing up, I often heard the saying, dress how you want to be addressed. And at first, I thought it was just about looking sharp. But it wasn't just about clothes. It was about how you show up every single day. And it was about how people perceive you based on your everyday actions. It was the beginning of understanding that your personal brand is made up of the small actions you take every single day. I grew up in Ghana, West Africa, and I wasn't born into wealth or privilege. I remember having to wake up every single morning, walking at least 1 mile just to take a shower, fetch water, take a shower before going to school. And as a teenager, that was definitely a difficult time in my life. And I often questioned why I had to go through this. But I realized that if I worked on who I wanted to be, I could completely change my path. If I focused on shaping how I wanted people to perceive me, I could go from that little boy who grew up in an uncompleted building to someone simply important. And that's all I ever wanted. I went to St. Augustine's College, an all-male Catholic high school, where everything from how we dressed to how we spoke was critical. And it was the beginning of understanding that the way we present ourselves affects how others treat us. And in 2016, my family and I moved to America. And I'll never forget, we arrived in South Texas dressed sharply in suit, and an airport officer stopped us and asked us, "Are you diplomats in your country?" I wish we were, but we weren't diplomats. We were just making a fresh start. And it was that moment that showed me how much first impressions matter. You see, whether we realize it or not, we're all building a personal brand. And your personal brand is made up of the small actions you take every single day. And think about it. Would you rather work with the person who comes in with a positive attitude, bubbly spirit, and says hello to everybody? Or that person who just rushes in, keeps their head down, and ignores everybody? Would you rather be the teacher who takes a moment to connect with your students and makes them feel valued, or one that never takes a moment to connect? These little things matter. They build your identity, they build your brand, and they build your reputation. And the best thing for me here is at the beginning of my experience of building a business, I knew I didn't have any flashy credentials. I was still a 21-year-old trying to figure things out in South Texas, where less than 1% of the population looks like me. But what I did know was my brand was more than what I was selling. It was about how I treated people. But let's take a step back, because building a brand isn't about just how you show up and looking flashy. It's also about value. How much do you offer value to people? If you're a teacher, that value comes from the impact you leave with your students. If you're a banker, maybe you help someone understand their finances better. It's these moments, even though they may seem insignificant, that build your personal brand. But let's take a step back also, because I strongly believe there's two main ways we can build a brand. One is by educating people, and two is by building connection. Now, education involves teaching someone something that can impact their lives or that can improve their lives. And like I said, if you're a teacher, maybe you help a student discover something about themselves. And if you're a banker, maybe you help that person understand their finances better. It's these moments of education, though they may seem insignificant, that help communicate value to people. And a good example of this is Duolingo, the language learning app that is on a mission to help millions of people become bilingual. On social media, they don't focus on selling their app. What they do is they create funny, educational content that we can all relate to. And that is what builds trust. The second part of the value system is connection. People want to feel seen, heard, and understood. And let's take Kaby Lame, for example. The guy on social media who has built millions of followers by simply overreacting to highly complicated stuff that we can all relate to. On social media, he has 162 million followers, bigger than the population of Russia, and he doesn't say a single word. What he does is he connects with us, and that connection is 100% valuable. Now, here's a statistic for you. According to Smarter HQ, 72% of people say they only engage with marketing messages that feel personalized to them. What does this mean? If you're just throwing out a bunch of generic ads, people will not relate to you. But if you take time to connect, when you teach someone something new, that is where the value comes from. And back home in Ghana, we have a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. But this doesn't just apply to raising a child. It takes a village to grow, to thrive, and to succeed. And everyone looks out for each other. Not because they want anything in return, but just because that's just what you do. You help, you share, and you give. And as teenagers, I'm sure we all had our rebellious moments. And I'll never forget when my uncles and aunties would travel the distance just to discipline me or give me some advice when I had some of those moments. But that, to me, represented value. Contributing to someone else's success without expecting anything in return. Now, here's where it all comes together. Whether it's opening a door for someone, sending a thoughtful message, these moments might seem insignificant, but they are the building blocks of your brand. But the best thing also is that there's a quick statistic that can help shape everything. This doesn't just apply to individuals. Even for businesses, personal connection matters. Because according to Sprout Social, 70% of consumers feel more connected to a brand when its CEO is active on social media. And I'm pretty sure there's a few CEOs in here who might have to look at this again and go create some social media accounts after this talk. But this matters so much because people don't want to connect with your job title or your role. They want to connect with the real you. And that's what is very important. Now think about it. Whether it's sharing a thoughtful message or helping someone understand something better, these are things we need to understand that is very impactful for every single one of us. And at the end of the day, we want to understand that the more actions we take, the more great steps we take to build our brand, the better we're off and the better we can accomplish everything we need to accomplish. And so here's the key takeaway. Your brand is not what people make it out to be for you. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. It's not about any logos or fancy taglines or marketing strategies. It's about the small, consistent actions we take every single day. If you're a banker, your brand is the trust you build with your clients. If you're a teacher, your brand is the impact you leave with your students. And if you're a parent, your brand is how your kids will remember you when they grow up. And the best thing about this is you don't have to be perfect to build a great brand. You just have to be intentional. You don't have to sell yourself. You just have to provide value in your own way. Because the more value you give, the stronger your brand becomes. And if a boy from Ghana can come to South Texas, where less than 1% of the population looks like him, and build a thriving business, then I can confidently say that building a brand isn't about grand gestures. It's about the small, consistent actions we take every single day. Every interaction, every conversation, every moment of value. That's what matters the most. Because in the end, small actions build brands. Thank you very much.